Hello everyone, welcome back to Bloodborne. Uh, at the beginning here we're gonna upgrade our weapon a little bit because we've been picking up the... the Bloodstone shards. And you use these to upgrade a weapon from plus nothing to plus 3 and then it switches the material. But since we are going to be putting the Fire Blood gemstone that I'm eventually going to find into this weapon to make it arcane, this weapon is going to need to be powered up. Let's see. So when you look at the screen, you see in the top right the flashing little box. Those you can put 3 gemstones, and they have to be of the type that you see in the picture in the background of the image. The spiky looking one is a radial gem, and the one on the far right is a crescent gem, and then there's also a triangle gem. And before I do that, I didn't actually read from the last episode the description for this brooch. A woman's bright red brooch, engraved with the name Viola. Perhaps the jewel is a gift from a hunter, used to change into a droplet blood gem that fortifies any weapon. With a proper workshop tool, various weapons can be fortified. Now, I could go back to the little girl and give her this jewel. Thing is it literally does nothing. She just says thank you and starts crying. And that's a waste because if you use this, you get the red blood gem. Now, the red blood gem, I don't actually know if it has a description. It has the same description as the actual brooch. So this is actually a gem we can put into a weapon once we upgrade it enough to unlock the slot. So you'll see the plus one for any weapon gives you the first gem slot. So if I upgrade the saw cleaver, you can see if you push square, it shows you the increase in damage. It'll go up by 9 physical attack, and the number to the right of that, the plus 2 to plus 3, that's the extra damage you get from the scaling, which you see at the bottom right, the attribute bonus. The leftmost stat, the D, is strength, and the hand is skill. The one next to that is Blood Tinge, where there's no scaling for it, and then finally Arcane. Excuse me. And as you level up the weapons, plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, those letters get better. You get C, B, A being the best rank. S, it might be S in this game, I can't remember. There was an S rank in Dark Souls for best rank. But anyways, you can see that this weapon doesn't scale well at all. But it does scale in Arcane. It has a D scaling in Arcane. So what the idea is you upgrade this, and we'll go ahead and upgrade it twice. And when you finally get the blood gem, I think it's a fire blood gem, you put it into this. It changes the physical attack damage to 0, but then it changes the fire attack stat down at the bottom in the middle of the screen where it says all the attacks. It changes that to 108 or whatever it'll be. But then the scaling, what you'll see, will be higher because my arcane stat will be higher. So that's generally the way you go through the game, is you just build into a weapon like that. So we just upgraded it times 2. So now we can put a blood gem into it, and it'll tell you what it does on the right. Physical attack up 2.5%, 2.7. Rally potential is the amount of HP you gain back from hitting an enemy after they hit you. So 1.8% is like, it's not a lot, it's almost negligible. You basically just want to go for physical attacks, or just straight damage percentages. So we're going to put that in because we have nothing better to do with it. You can also upgrade your weapons, but it's useless, or your pistols, but it's useless because the damage is ridiculously low, even fully upgraded, even with Blood Tinge. Blood Tinge is the stat there at the bottom left, right above Arcane, that dictates how much damage you do with bullets, quicksilver, anything, and several specific weapons. I think there's actually only 2 weapons in the game which scale fully with Blood Tinge. The Chikage and then one of the DLC weapons, which we won't be getting. Over here, I didn't mention this earlier, this is a Bath Messenger shop. And this shop, you use insight to buy things. So we're going to buy the small resonant bell just to have it. This is something you would ring if you wanted another player to summon you into their game. So and then the sinister resonant bell is you ring this bell to invade somebody else's world. Now the invasion system in this game is different than Dark Souls in that you can't just invade anybody. You can only invade people who have rung their beckoning bell. So I think the original design of that was it's to help players not get screwed over by invasions every 10 seconds like you would in Dark Souls 1. You have to you absolutely have to be ringing the beckoning bell to summon somebody into your game. And the time right after you ring that bell, an enemy will appear on the map, somewhere in the map that you're in. An enemy will appear and ring a sinister bell. And that sinister bell ringing means that you, as the invader, can invade that person. But at your own risk, because that person will most likely have someone help them or summon another player into their world, which was the original purpose of them ringing the beckoning bell. So it's kind of a... It's the system which sets up ganks. Like, you're asking to be ganked if you try to invade people in Bloodborne. But if you're really good, you can get away with it. This Bath Messenger shop is for blood echoes, and you can buy just the general stuff here. Hand lantern's nice to have when I have enough souls now, but it's not really worth it. It's just default light, so you don't have to carry a torch all the time. This is something we want to save up for. It's the Hunter Chief emblem. You need this to open a gate in the Cathedral Ward, actually, which allows you to open up every gate in the Cathedral Ward, which the explicit purpose for that, I believe, is to get Eileen the Crow to spawn again, to continue her quest line. Here we have all the weapons. So the Saw Spear we could buy, and the Saw Cleaver from getting the Saw Hunter badge. I believe the Hunter Axe was already here, and I think the Threaded Cane and the Kirk Hammer were from picking up the Sword Hunter badge, right? So this is where the weapons appear when you pick up the badges, and the same thing with guns. See, the Hunter Pistol, the Repeating Pistol. This was also, I think, the Sword Hunter badge, and this basically just fires 2 bullets instead of 1, and it does more damage per bullet. So I guess if you were trying to shoot your way through the game, which I do not advise, you would use the Repeating Pistol, or there's a bunch of other guns too, not just pistols. You can get cannons, flamethrowers, things like that. Could just outright buy this set. This is and as the game progresses, more and more armor sets will just appear for you to buy. It's more an aesthetic thing than a functional thing. That's pretty much the entirety of the Hunter's Dream. You can come back here, and there is a tree trunk. And in this tree trunk, you have the little messenger guys, and you can put little hats on them, so whenever you write a message, they'll have their hats on them when somebody else in another game looks at them. So you can, for example, I just gave them the item I found on the ground. Now they have little top hats. And if I ever write a message on the ground and another player sees it, they're going to see my guys with little top hats. It's kind of cute. It's a good extra, in my opinion. These gravestones will eventually be used to go into Chalice Dungeon. It's this game's versions of a randomly generated dungeon. I think they're fun. They were not received well by the game public, though. I don't really know why. I think they're great fun. They're very, very difficult. So what we're going to do now is, we have some loose ends to tie up. We can go back to where we first started the game. And the room that we spawned in will be locked. And there will be an NPC in there, and her name is Yosefka. Now, I believe we already missed the first event with Yosefka, because at some point early in the game, Yosefka is killed by a member of the choir, and you'll figure out who the choir is later. But this member of the choir kills her and takes the Yosefka's clinic for herself to do nasty experiments on humans, and she will ask you, just like the crazy man, the creepy man in the Cathedral Ward, she will ask you to send people here that you find so she can do experiments on them.
Oh, well, hello. Splendid. Let me ask you a small kindness. You're soon off to hunt.
I think you could actually tell if this is the fake if she has a weapon in her hand.
If you find any survivors,
is that a weapon?
Yosefka's clinic. Upon my
yeah, she has the weapon there. See, this is the fake.
Human, I will look after them. Perhaps
you can see her. I was looking through the small window there on the left.
This sickness, these beasts, they are not to be feared. This time the night is long. I may be trapped here, but I should do something to help.
So this is all a ruse. She's trying to experiment on humans to transcend her own humanity.
Cooperation. Tempted? Well, off you go then.
At least I think this is the fake. You can see a weapon in her hand, and I think the weapon indicates that she's changed. The voice actress actually changes too.
Send them straight to to Yusefka's clinic. You can assure them there's no place safer. Please, do me this service. If you find it, you can assure.
Right, so now that we've talked to her, whenever we find an NPC that we can send to safety, Yosefka's clinic will pop up as a place to go. Right now, though, we want to head over to an NPC that we just kind of walked by earlier, where the dog was barking at the door, because that's one of the NPCs we can send to either the clinic or the... What am I hearing? We can either send her to the clinic or to the cathedral ward. We're going to be sending her to the cathedral ward. Because she's nice. It's an old woman and, well, okay, she's not nice. She's actually a raging bitch. But as the game progresses and as the night gets further into the night, she starts losing her mind. And I think she suffers from dementia. And she will give you a very, very expensive, good, consumable item. We'll talk to this guy again, too, and see where he's at.
You needn't concern yourself with me. I'm afraid I'm of little help now. But before I...
Yeah, see, now see, we killed 2 bosses, and he now gives us the flame sprayer.
I made no use of it, but perhaps you. What afflicted me was incurable. But this town gave me hope. Their strange blood bought me time.
See, he thinks...
I was most fortunate. Unharmed by the plague of beasts. I can even die human.
Alright, so the spoiler here is he doesn't die human. You can come back here much later in the game. And he will be... The window will be broken and there will be a beast out here trying to kill you. So he does not effectively die as a human. Which it lets you have the... It runs under the implication that what he just said was utterly false, and what he was told was not true. The Healing Church most likely gave him blood with the plague in it, and then lied about it. But anyways, we're going this way. I'm gonna kill these to get... These 2 dudes generally reliably drop blood vials and Quicksilver bullets, which you can never have enough. Well, you can. You can have 99. I don't know why I didn't previously open that door. That's retarded. I have to go around. You can have up to 99 of an item, 20 in your inventory, and 70-something in the chest. It helps out when you're trying to go for backstabs. Backstabs are different in this game too. You actually have to charge up an attack to get that little blue flash, and you have to hit them in the back to do it. It's difficult because enemies are really wily in this game, so it's sometimes easier to get a backstab if you unlock from the enemy and just free aim the strike and try to hit them in the ass with it. It works out more often than not. I'm gonna open this door. Alright, so now the pathway's open. See, now this dog is just out of the cage. So another interesting thing about the game is you can re-explore areas as you beat more bosses, and the environment will be different because it'll be darker for one. But small things like that change, where the dogs will be out of the cages instead of in the cages. And some NPCs that we've knocked on the doors previously, they'll have different dialogue where they just progressively are losing their mind and they just start screaming at you.
Shutting up indoors isn't always enough. Well, if you once had got off your arses, you wouldn't be in this mess. You're obligated to help me, you hear?
See, she's kind of a bitch.
Are you going to tell me you're not?
We want her to go to Uden Chapel.
Well, what do you know? An outsider worth a lick of salt. Well, don't just stand there. Don't you have work to do? Go slit some throats. Get this mess done with.
Alright. Now we can head back to the Cathedral Ward and continue on. There are 2... I just heard a dog. There are 2 other NPCs well, they're in the cathedral ward, so I guess we don't have to worry about that now. But one of them is a whore, and one of them is a very angry man, and we need to pick them up too. I don't remember the actual trigger, which allows you to take them to the Uden Chapel. You want both of them to go to the Uden Chapel. Most of the NPCs, actually, you want to go to the Uden Chapel, because they provide you with story dialogue, and a lot of them will give you items. If you send them to Yosefka's clinic, what eventually happens is you get into the clinic from the backside, and they've all been turned into these like hideous creatures, and whenever you kill them, they'll drop an item, and it'll be significant to their persona. Indiana Jones. But you don't really want that, because you don't want just a singular item from a dead NPC that you can no longer talk to, and you miss out on all the lore. Alright, maxing out our blood vials, that's always good. I'm gonna kill everything I come across because I want to work up to that 10,000 blood echoes to buy that gate seal. Ooh, his parry window's large. I should not have taken those hits either. Once you play this game enough, or you play the Dark Souls games enough, and you reach a certain level of skill, you'll plateau, just like any other video game or actual vocation. But you'll plateau, and you'll rely on that level of skill. You'll have a very good intuitive sense about how good you are at the game. And sometimes like that, you'll take a hit from a regular enemy, and it's like really unsettling, because you'll know deep down that you just fucked up, and you really shouldn't have been hit. Some of the allure to going through these games for the first time is you really, for a long while, you have yourself to blame for dying, but there's a skill curve, and every time you die you get a little bit stronger, you get a little bit better, but once you get to a certain plateau like I'm at, when you die it's just annoying, because you know you have to start over again and get to where you died. And see, here we have the old woman who I just saved. She somehow beat me here. So you can see that blood now is cultural to these people. So the discovery of the blood, the item in the mines and the healing church has been around for quite some time. So much so that culturally speaking, this woman legitimately believes that an outsider, someone who's not originally from Yharnam, has tainted her blood, much like an STD of sorts. Like she has AIDS because I exist. And that's the fault of the healing church, the blood ministration. The healing church wants you to think that outsiders are terrible and that everything should be really homogenous to Yharnam. See, now these guys, these are interesting. This is where you're kind of seeing the second set of enemies in the game. These are men, but they're not turning into beasts. However, they are attacking you. And you will find out that these men are, I believe they're choir members, because you can see by the bell on their chest. This is creepy. We'll figure out what that is later, but I did just pick up some new armor. It's a top hat. Hat worn by hunters who admire formality. Some hunters place an emphasis on form, as seen by the use of the threaded cane. For them, formality, beauty, and justice are the very essence of our humanity, and precisely what keeps hunters from becoming something else. We're going to put that on. And the hunter garb. This actually has a different description, but the same name. This one without the cape that wipes away the blood. A fine piece of hunter attire that provides stable defense to anyone facing Yharnam's beastly threat. So it's kind of the same. It's the same description. Gloves have the same, and the trousers have the same. But it is a different look, and I like this look the best. I think this is one of my favorites, mostly because of the overcoat and the top hat's just wonderful. All right, we're gonna head down here. Now, if you buy the 10,000 Blood Echo item, you would go over to the left here and open this gate. And the gate will lead you to the next area of the game. So you can technically, if you were speedrunning the game, skip this entire next section that I'm about to go through. You skip a boss, skip a lot of stuff. Now, you don't want to do that, but it just, you can. See how he says away to me? He thinks I'm a beast. They for some reason, in their eyes, they see me as a literal animal, a threat. And I believe that this is not the Church of the Good Chalice, but this is a cathedral, or yeah, a cathedral, which allows you access to Old Yarnum. Right now we're in just regular Yarnum proper, but the next area we go through is Old Yarnum. Fucking dogs. I hate dogs. Not in real life. In this game, I despise the dog enemies. Bullets, please. Thank you. We're about to meet another NPC who gives a lot of lore. Most of the exposition in the entire game will come from this guy. And they give him to you pretty early on, so I guess you have some good idea of what's actually happening. So we're gonna listen to him.
Hunter, aren't you? I knew it. That's precisely how
I believe they wanted him to be some sort of Solaire type, where he's, you know, jolly cooperation.
Protege of Master Ligurius, hunter of vile bloods. So, what say you? Our prey might differ, but we are hunters, the both of us. Why not cooperate?
Cooperation.
Discuss the things we've learned.
Sure.
Oh,
I don't actually know what happens if you
very
refuse. I think he just keeps
Very
asking
good
you.
Indeed. Take this to celebrate our acquaintance.
The illusion of choice. That's an incredibly important item that he just gave us. That's basically going to make the next boss fight very easy because it's a beast. Beasts are weak to fire, and we have a serrated weapon. So, and he gives us an emote.
Beast hunting is a sacred practice. May the good blood guide your way.
So we can keep talking to him.
Oodles for us to share. Go on. Just tell me what piques your interest.
The Healing Church.
As you know, the Healing Church is the fountainhead of blood healing. Well, I'm a simple hunter, quite unfamiliar with the ins and outs of the institution. But I have heard that the holy medium of blood healing is venerated in the main cathedral, and that counselors of the old church reside in the high stratum of the cathedral ward. If you seek blood healing, and the church is willing, you should pay them a visit. Bergenworth is an old place of learning, and the tomb of the gods, carved out below Yarnum, should be familiar to every hunter. Well, once a group of young Bergenworth scholars discovered a holy medium deep within the tomb.
That's the item.
This led to the founding of the Healing Church and the establishment of blood healing. In this sense, everything sacred in Yarnum can be traced back to Bergenworth. But today, the college lies deep within a tangled wood, abandoned and decrepit. And furthermore, the Healing Church has declared Bergenworth forbidden ground. It's unclear how many of its scholars remain alive, but only they know the password that allows passage through the gate.
So,
Bid you farewell. It has been a pleasure. May
he
the
basically
good
just
God
outlined what I said earlier. But what he hinted at, and what really becomes profuse later on, is there is a rift between the Bergenworth scholars and the Healing Church. So much so that it resorted to violence, and eventually, as he just said, the Healing Church declared Bergenworth, the site of Bergenworth itself, a forbidden area to go to. So that implies that the Healing Church has more power over society and politics than Bergenworth does, or ever did. we pull that lever, and it opens up this coffin sarcophagus ground area. I actually played through the game for the first time, and I missed this entire area because I couldn't find that lever because I just wasn't paying attention. You'll notice too the sculptures and the artwork of that. By the way, we just picked up a blood gem. That's a physical blood gem, though it's not going to do well for us. The statues get progressively more and more grotesque and more inhuman. Now you'll see these seem human, and all their faces are covered. But then you look up at this one here, and this one's neck is oddly long, and we're about to fight a series of enemies that look just like this, but they are decidedly beast-like. And as the game progresses, you'll see more and more statues, and we'll have a look at them, where they're clearly inhuman. More and more, you'll find that the artwork turns alien in nature. So we're going to put on a torch. With these enemies, you just want them to try to get you and then dodge behind them. They can't really attack backwards. If you stand in front of them, you're going to die. Thought there was an item down there. See, now we're descending. Notice we've been descending this entire time. We're going lower into the belly of Yharnam. I believe this is antidotes. Antidotes will become very important. In fact, I'm going to put them on because the next boss also poisons you. It's kind of a bitch. If you run out of antidotes, it becomes an incredibly difficult fight. Poison in this game is nothing to be scoffed at. It is very powerful. So here's our lamp. I believe there's an item in here. Yep, just have a roll through the pots. Pungent blood cocktail. That basically allows you to throw it's a cocktail. You throw it on the ground, and if a beast enemy is nearby, it'll come out and sniff it and ignore you completely. And here we have Old Yharnam. So that's a hunter, and he's losing his mind. And there's a well-known glitch in this area too. There's a floating statue up there for some reason. My theory is that they needed an NPC to give the voice. We just walked out here and someone was talking. Most of the game, the person you're talking to will be visibly right in front of you, but that one was supposed to be like a loudspeaker kind of guy. And I think they needed to have an item or something to put the sound MIDI into, so they just put that up there. We're gonna go over here. Did I scare this thing away? No, I didn't. These are your crystal lizards. Whenever they run from you and they'll eventually disappear, but if you kill them, they generally drop upgrade materials, which is fantastic. So, these are the enemies I was talking about. There are a larger variation of them, but you can see that they're very clearly beasts. And they poison you. Then it makes you wonder, and you ask the question, why would the Yharnamites be making statues of the beasts? It's almost as if they venerate them. It's almost as if they worship them in a sense, at least from an artistic or cultural standpoint. And we get a better torch. It's longer. Feels like that's the only difference between the torch and the one I just had. And to get back, you have to go down. This is eventually a shortcut. And we do have enough souls. We do have enough blood echoes to purchase that gate key item. If we chose to, we could continue Eileen's quest line. The problem is the next part of her quest line, we have to kill a decently powerful hunter, and I don't know if we have the strength to do. But, Anyways, I figure this is a good place to stop the episode. Thanks for watching. In the next episode, we are going to continue along Old Yarnum. We will most likely get to the boss, kill him, and then hopefully make our way to the blood gem that we need to actually make our weapon build into the class that we picked, or the stat, which is arcane. Anyways, I will catch you in the next one.